Zok the Heilige Gemara, we're holding 7 lines down from the top. It says in the Mishnah, if a person was shechting 2 animals or 1 animal, let's say 1 animal, knocks off the head. So Gemara says, well, it depends how long the knife was. But we learned in the Mishnah that the knife was like this. If it's double the size of the neck, then it's okay. So Amar Reb Zera, we're going to prove that it means double the size of the neck. Amar Reb Zera, meloy tzavar v'chutz l'tzavar. What the Mishnah means is the size of the neck plus, I don't know exactly what he means. And the Gemara is going to say, what does chutz l'tzavar mean? Does it mean a little bit? Ibaylu. Meloy tzavar v'chutz l'tzavar, kimeloy tzavar, like in this picture. Does it mean 2 widths of a neck? Dahava lehu trei tzavarin, so totally you have 2. Or it means, take a look at this slide, how it happens. Boom. It just means a little bit more than the knife. Toshma. Let's go to the next case. Over there, it's a little bit more mefurish. It says, if a person was shechting 2 animals at the same time and knocked off both of their heads, if the knife has 1 width of a neck, it's kosher. Ask the Gemara the obvious question. How is it possible that if you're shechting 1 animal, you need a little bit more than a neck? And if you're shechting 2 animals, all you need is 1 neck? It's impossible. So what does 1 neck mean? 1 neck means 1 neck more than what you're shechting. So if you have 2 animals, you need 1 neck in addition to the 2 necks of the width of the animal. A total of how many necks? 3. 2 necks of the animal, 1 extra neck width. That's how long your knife has to be. And that's the end of the sugya. If it means when you're shechting 2 animals, all you need is a knife that's as wide as 1 neck. It's impossible. If you're shechting 1 animal, Reb Zera just said you need 1 neck plus a little bit more. So when you're shechting 2 animals, all you need is 1 neck. So when the Mishnah says 1 neck, it means whatever width. If you're shechting 16 animals, you need a knife that's 16 animals wide plus 1 neck. It means 1 neck in addition to the 2 that you're shechting. So therefore also, when Reb Zera says on 1 animal, it means not this picture right over here, but this picture over here. Shmamina. End of the sugya. Omer Rabbi Menashe. Says the Gemara, when do you need a knife that's this long, like in this picture? You need a knife like this when it's 1 motion. You're only going forward, you're only going backward. So to make sure that you did a good shechita, you need a knife that has an extra width to it. But it says the Mishnah, if you're going to go back and forth, you could even use a small razor blade. This big. And if it takes you 20 times back and forth until you shecht, okay. In Hilchas Shechita, that's okay. In Hilchas Tzar Belachayim, you might be a little bit of a Russia, but that's what it is. It's talking about specifically, this is according to the Sichas Chullin. I drew a completely different picture, but the Sichas Chullin argues with me, so I'm going to go with the Sichas Chullin. I think Rabbi David knows better than I do. Karnayim means a decorative piece that comes out of a knife, and let's say this is, just for argument's sake, this is this part is a razor, so he's shechting like this. This is the neck of the animal, so he's going back and forth, like that. Now the problem is that it has these little horns that come out, decorative horns, and it might slip and it might poke the simanim. Not good. Another question. Machtamai, what if I use a needle? Now obviously, if I'm going to poke the animal with a needle a bunch of times and make small holes, what is that? What is that? Drisa. I'm pushing downwards. You need a cut with a nail, with the. So So he's going to take this. This is like the worst of the worst. I don't even know the mitzias of it. You take a needle and you start going back and forth with it. You start scraping the surface until you get in. And then once you get in, then you cut. I mean, this is what you have. You're on an island. And you have a needle. You pack yourself a needle and some thread, and you don't have a knife. No, no good. Yeah, you're going back and forth. But at one of those back and forths, you're going to poke the guy. And once you poke him, that's drisa, you're over. No good.
Kira. Who says it's a kira?
Korea.
Like ripping, tearing.
That's not drisa.
Okay, you're ripping. Fine, better. Mivza baza, you're ripping. Says the Gemara, Machta du ushkefe mai. So you have a tanner's needle. What was this for? I don't remember. Okay, oh, here, over here, maybe you might rip. Okay.
That's the knife the other way, like you had it.
Yeah. So this guy right over here, you don't really see, it's not 100, it could have been a better picture. But the point is that the top part of the needle is a little flatter than a regular needle, A. B, the tip is flat. B, the sides are very, very sharp. This is what the people that work with leather, they use such a needle. Omar le Tanina, I don't understand the problem. Afilu kol shuhu. If you look in the Mishnah on Amud Beis, I should have had it on the screen. It says, Avalim hoylech vehevi, the last words in the Mishnah. If you're doing a back and forward motion like a knife, afilu kol shuhu, even a knife that's the smallest of the small. And then the Mishnah continues, afilu be'izmil kshera, even a razor blade. So, in all, a razor blade, whatever you want to call it. So says Gemara, what does kol shuhu mean? It's telling us a type of kli, a type of a cutting instrument. My love, machta dushkefei. A mashut would l'char mean the smallest knife that I know of, which is a needle that they work with leather. Loi, Ismail. No, it's referring to a razor blade. Ismail behedik tanila. But that's the next words. Afilu be'Ismail. So what does kol shuhu mean? It can't mean the same thing. Says the Gemara, it does mean the same thing. Purushiko mefarish. My kol shuhu, the Mishnah is saying, you can use a knife that's kol shuhu, even a very, very small knife. But what's the smallest of the small? Ismail. That has to be the width of a razor blade. And it makes a lot of sense logically. If you tell me something that's 1 millimeter wide is kosher, it wouldn't make sense for the Mishnah to say 1 millimeter is kosher, and also you should know a 20 millimeter razor blade is also kosher. Of course, a razor blade is kosher. Says Gemara, no. On that, if that's your whole raya, that's not a good raya. Why? Don't forget about this guy. This one we already established is possible. So maybe all razor blades in the world should be possible because they used to have these decorative pieces to the razor blades and they could be dangerous for shechita. So maybe I should say maybe a needle is good, but a razor blade is not good because some razor blades have horns. Now I'm going to ask you a trick question. Don't look in the Mishnah, because if you do, you're going to make a little bit of a mistake. What if I have a knife on a table? This knife is sitting on the edge, and there's vibrations going on, like, a lot of houses have vibration. I'm just waiting there for it to fall, and I know that when it falls, it's going to fall so perfectly on my chicken's head, which I tied down right below the table, and it's going to cut my chicken. I want it to happen. Is that a good shechita or not a good shechita? I'm watching it. I'm looking at the knife. He says it's good. He says no good. What? It's good, Ari. Why is it good?
If you throw a stone.
Oh, so maybe I can be mechalik because you threw it. What? So that's something else. Now, now you're talking about something the opposite. It was your throw with zero kavana. Over here I have full kavana, zero koyach. It's a different case, completely different case. So it says the Mishnah, nafla sakin, nafla, it fell, sakin b'shachata, Over here, it did not have any koyach of a person, no koyach gavra. It didn't come from the power of a human. It just fell. Even though it made a beautiful slice in the neck, cut both of the simanim, the kana and the veshet, psula. It's not a good shchita. Shenemar v'zovachta v'ochalta. You have to shecht and then you eat. Mashat hazivech at ha'oichel. Taimid and afla. That's because it fell. Hahi pila. Who? Ksheira. What does it pila mean? A pila would mean you didn't throw it. You let go of it. So this is my knife. I let go of it. But that leaving go, me opening up my fingers, that is a koyach gavra. I used human force, and that human force of me releasing it, let it go down and cut. But here's the point. The big point is, va'af agav deloy mechaven. That's today's sugya. The problem is over here that he didn't intend to shecht. When you l'chayra, well, from here it's mashma, that you don't have to have intent when you shecht. As long as it was a human power, it came from your power, you threw it, whatever it is, even if you didn't have kavana to shecht, it's a good shchita. Mantana deloy be'inan kavana l'shchita. Who is this Tana that says that you don't have to have any intent? Omar Rabba Rebbe Nosson. This is the famous Rebbe Nosson, which we had 20 days ago. The Tony is Shai Zeir that when we were in Morocco, we had him. So that was 20 days. We were in Morocco 20 days ago. That's the long. The Tony is Shai Zeir the Min Chaviraya. So Rashi says you could read his name two ways. You could read his name, the Tony Ishaya. His name is Ishaya. Zeira the Min Chaviraya. He's the youngest of the whole Chabura. Or maybe his name is the Tony Ishaya Zeira. That was his name. The Min Chaviraya. He's part of the Chabura. So he wasn't the youngest in the group. His name is the young, Ishaya the young. It wasn't the youngest in the group. He might have been the oldest of the group. Zorak sakin l'natza because he threw a knife because he wanted to get it into the wall. And it went and it shechted an animal by mistake. Rabbi Nosson machshir. Rabbi Nosson says you don't have to have intent for shchita. You do not have to have kavanah by shchita. V'chacham poislim. Chacham say you have to have intent by shchita. And Rava continues to say, you should know that Allah is like Rabbi Nosson, that what? That by shchita, you don't need to have intent to shech. You have to have intent to throw, to move the knife. That's it. Ask the Gemara. Why does Rava have to say that the Allah is like Rabbi Nosson? He already said it before. Where? On Daf Beis, the first Mishnah of Chullin. You see, Rebelli, we're doing a Chazarah for you. Few. We did Daf Yud Beis. We went to that sugya. Now we're doing Daf Beis. That what? It says that if a cheresh shoyt of a katan, do a shchita, no good. But if you're standing there, the snan v'kulin sheshachatu, the cheresh shoyt of a katan, v'acherim roy noisan, you have an adult watching. Shchita is a good shchita. V'amrina matana loy boy kavan shchita. But the cheresh shoyt of a katan don't have intent. So who says you don't have to have intent? V'amar Rav Rebbe Nosson. The same Rava that says it's the same Rebbe Nosson that says you don't have the intent. So why does he repeat his same halacha 30 days later? Says over there at least the cheresh, the shaita is he had a kavanah to cut. He doesn't know anything about shchita, but he had kavanah. He wanted to make an incision in an animal. But over here, that he dropped the knife. He didn't have kavanah to cut. Maybe it shouldn't be a good shchita. So it is a good shchita because it had the power of a human being. But if I would just say the case over here that he dropped the knife, at least it came from a person that has das. Over there we're talking about a shaita. Maybe it shouldn't be considered movement at all. You need the power of a bendas, not just a human being. A human that's das. Tzricha, no. In all these cases, it's a good shchita. The boy said there's a murder sugya. Itmar. Nidosh and nentz of a tavla. So I'm going to tell you the end of the sugya, according to one shita. It means she had an oinus, the tvila was an oinus, meaning she had to go, she was mechuyev to go to the mikvah. And she was walking on a bridge, and she slipped off the bridge and fell into the water. So we have a machlokes. Omer Rav Yudom Rav. Rav says, Tahir lebeisa. This is a peladik thing. she's 100% mutter to her husband. In other words, there's no isser kares. This tvila, by mistake, removes kares. On the other side, on the flip side, va'asura lechol betruma. She would be usher to consume truma, which is only a lesser isser than kares. It's an isser of misa b'dei shamayim. Get the death penalty from heaven, but it's not as worse, as bad as kares, which also could chas v'shalom affect children, etc. Rabbi Yochanan Omar, no, both are the same. Afle beis lo tahara. This tvila didn't help at all. It wasn't a tvila with kavana. She certainly didn't say a bracha, meaning she didn't show intent. She didn't want to be in the water at that point, and it doesn't help her. It's not a tvila. Pella, no? Geshmak. Most people are not aware of these halachas. I don't understand what's going on here. Avain kares hutra. What? It removes kares. Isser misim ebaya. So certainly it should remove the lesser isser of truma. Omar leili, you're not going to believe this. Bala chulin. A husband is a piece of chulin. The wife is also chulin, meaning we are not kodesh. We're not kachim. The chulin loy kavana. When it comes to chulin, you don't have to have any intent. But when it comes to truma, it's different. You have to have intent. I'm telling you, can't get better than the sugya. Una Timran, how do you know this? This nan. Gal shenitlash uboy arboim so. Listen to this. We know you could go be toivel in the ocean. The ocean is gevaldik and mikvah. A wave that's attached to the ocean is part of the ocean. But what about a wave that detaches itself from the ocean? Detaches. 40 sa of water. Has to be 40 sa. A tsunami. Poof. Whatever, however it works. There's an earthquake and down, and grab the water down and pushes water up. Doesn't matter. A whole wave, at least, we're talking about a minimum of 40 sa, because less than 40 sa, there's nothing to talk about. We have 40 sa of water flying through the air. A moment ago was mamish gevalik to go in the mikvah. Now it's flying through the air. Once it's airborne, no, you can't be toivel in it in the air. But once it lands, you could. Now, first of all, any rainwater that landed, that's in a pit, that's make shavim. That's what we make all mikvahs out of. That's great. But what if it's in mid-air? It's flying through the air. One edge of it is touching the ground. The other is still in motion, coming. It wants to rest on the ground, but it's in motion. And you put a kli, let's say you have a vessel, you have to be toivel a vessel that's tamei, not a one that you bought in this tamei vessel, and you're standing up, so you don't want to bend down to the ground. You grab the wave in midair, which part of it is touching the ground, and part of it is flying through the air. That's okay. That's called, not keeping, Russian. That's called Russian. You're grabbing the head of it when the bottom of it is touching the ground. So says the Gemara, Gal shenitlash. If this wave is detached, ubayar barim sa, and has 40 sa, v'nafal ala adam ala kalim tahirim. So we're going to have to see exactly what type, where it was. But right now it's not attached to the ocean. It has the power to give tahara to a person and to vessels. My love, adam dumi the kalim. Since the human being and the kalim are mentioned together, so they're similar to what? Ma kalim loy mechavni, af adam nami loy boy kavana. You know that a kli doesn't have to have kavana, doesn't have das, doesn't have a brain. So a person also not. Ask the Gemara, who told you there's no kavana here? Dilma b'yoyshev u'mitzapas kinon. Maybe this guy is just waiting there and waiting for a wave to come, so he does have kavana. V'kelim dumi da'adam. Taflamet alaf on the base. Ma'adam debinon kavana. Af kelim na'ami dekam mechavim lu'adam. Just like when a person he could be mechaven, so too by kelim, the human being is mechaven for the kli. If he's waiting there and it's a wave, so what's the chiddush? Chayil shel kshamim is when there's a big storm, there's a lot of rain. and you sit, let's say, on the bottom of this street over here called Ayalon, and all this rainwater comes down, 40 saw of it, and you sit on the bottom and you sit there in your bathing suit and you say, oh, that's no good. Why is that no good? Because it's rainwater that's moving. Rainwater can't move. Rainwater has to be stationary. So in Mela, I would say that moving seawater should have a gzeira, that people will confuse the two. Commercial, it works. Inami, ligzar Russian otu kipin. Here we go. Check this out. So this is a detached wave of 40 saw, and this is no good for tefillah. So maybe I should be geyser this kind of thing. I've never seen one of these yet, but I should say that when you have a kippin, it looks like a yarmulke, like a kippah, like a detached, a what? Canopy, okay, canopy of water. You have a detached thing of water. Should say that it's also to use one that's attached to the ground, because you might come to say that a detached one is okay. So galshin nitlash that's attached to the ground, but it's still in movement, is kosher. But I would think that it's not kosher because of otu, this one that's completely detached. And how do you know that you shouldn't be toivel in a detached wave? So obviously, when you read this, you see right away that the snan does not mean a Mishnah, because he would never ask, how do you know this halacha when it's a mefurish Mishnah? The Gemara wouldn't ask it. It would say right away the snan, not a umunot timra. So that's why they say on the side that it's not a Mishnah, it's a brisa. Madbilim barashim ve'madbilim akiv, it's a mefurish. That you could use a wave that's attached to the ground, but you can't use a detached wave. Shematbilim ba'aver, something that's mid-air, you can't be toivel in. So how do we know that you don't need to have any intent when it comes to chulin? Like we said before, that a husband is chulin, you don't need to have kavanah by a husband. That's not. So if a fruit had water touch it, and you wanted the water to touch it, or as we're going to see soon, if you want the water, even if you don't want the water to touch it, you want the water, then it's machshir lekabel tumah. And if a sheretz touches the fruit, now it can become tamei. But without any mashke touching it, and a sheretz touches the fruit is not tamei. So here we have an interesting situation. You have fruit that fell into water. What does he do? He's trying to save the fruit. So he sticks his hand and grabs the fruit. The thing is that this person has hands that are tamei, and in order for him to eat food, it has to wash his hands. So his intent was to grab the fruit, but he didn't have intent to be toivel his hands. What's the halacha? Yodav tahiros. His hands are tar. So if we stop right here, and this is the end of the sugya, what do we have a raya now? That in order to make your hands tar, you don't have to have kavanah to put them in the mikvah. His kavanah was to grab fruit, not to be mitar his hands. That's enough. Eli, how are we doing so far?
Oh, yeah.
It's very good. No, it's gishmak moed. Upeiros einam b'chiyutan, and the fruit are not susceptible to tumah. V'mbishvil sheyutchu, but he had kavanah to take the fruit out of the water.
He washed his hands.
Right, to wash his hands and take the fruit out, but to take the fruit out. He wanted to wash his hands and take, I don't know, Rashi sticks in. Yodav tahiros, his hands are tar. Why? Obviously, even without kavanah, his hands are tar. Or peiros b'chiyutan. Now that he wanted to wash his hands, now he wants the water. And once he wants the water, that's enough to give the fruit the hechsher lekabel tumah. Akol parim, if you go to the first line, you see that you put your hands in the water and you don't want to be mitar them. You want to grab something, that's enough to make them tar. So too, the woman who fell into the mikvah becomes tar without kavanah. Eisvi Rav Rav Nachman. So again, Rav says you don't have to have kavana. So he says Tav al Chullin v'huchzak l'Chullin. This is incredible. Listen to this. Listen to this, Rabbi. So you're not going to believe this. Another unbelievable halacha today. If a person goes into the mikvah and he says, "I'm going into the mikvah to eat meiser sheni. I want to be able to eat meiser sheni," but that's it. What's a level above meiser sheni? Truma. What's a level above truma? Kachim. What's a level above kachim? Paraduma. It depends on the level. It depends on your mind. I could go into the mikvah and be completely tar for one thing and not another thing. I'm going into the mikvah just for chulin. I didn't go into the mikvah for truma, so that's it. No good. I'm going into the mikvah truma. I didn't think about the next level above that, which is kachim. So I'm not tar for kachim. Incredible. It says Tav al Chulin, a person who's makbet to eat chulin al taras hakodesh, he goes into the mikvah. V'huchzak the chulin. Huchzak over here means he had kavana only for chulin. Also l'maiser. That kavana limits him to the lower level of tahara. He's only tar for something low level of chulin, but not for the next level, which is meiser sheni. So it says mefurish huchzak in huchzak loy, that he had kavana for chulin. So over here you see you have to have kavana for chulin. A second ago you told me that I could put my hands in a mikvah and they become tar with that kavana. Over here it says you had to have kavana for chulin. No, that's not the pshat. Okay, he is already good for chulin, also l'maiser. If a person is tar for chulin, it's not good. Not that you have to have kavana for chulin. You don't have to have kavana for chulin. But if he's already good for chulin, it's not good enough for maiser. Which is tremendous. If I would have asked you this question beforehand, most of you would have said, no, a guy went to the mikvah and he's tar for one thing, he's tar for everything. What's the difference? No. He only removed one layer of tumah. The rest is, he's still tummy for those things. Eisvei. Tova v'loy huchzak. If a person did tefillah but he didn't have any kavana, kilu loy taval. It's as if he didn't go to the mikveh at all. So you see that you have to have kavana. My love kilu loy tava klal. L'chayr means it's as if he didn't go to the mikveh at all. Loy kilu taval meiser. He went to the mikveh, and the first level of chulin, that's automatic without any intent. What you need to have intent is meiser, truma, kachim, paraduma. Those things you have to have intent. Chulin you don't have to have intent. So Mela, it's kilu, you didn't go to the mikvah for level 2, which is meiser. Level 1, you don't have to have any intent. Even if you fall off a bridge, you're tar. It is good for chulin. Says Rabbi thought he's just pushing him off, saying stam, throwing things at him to get him off his back. Novak dog v'ashkach. Rabbi went and looked into it, and he found. I love this lashon. It's like, he didn't have Doitzer HaChachma. He started going through Shas and until he realized, the Sanya, Tava v'lei huchzak, mutar l'chulin v'asal l'maisa. This is mefurish. If a person went into the mikvah and it didn't have any kavana, he's still good for chulin. He's still tar for chulin. You don't have to have kavana for chulin. And mamish fits in with Rav. You don't have to have kavana. The woman doesn't have to have kavana for chulin. Mutar l'chulin v'asal l'maisa. Amalei Abai Rav Yosef. Leima Tavet Tiyuv to the Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan is the one that says that a woman has to have kavana. She can't just fall off a bridge and say, I'm tired to my husband. And over here you see mefurish that for the lowest level of chulin to be tired to a husband, it's okay without kavana. So l'chayr there's a kasha of Rabbi Yochanan. Says the Gemara, you're right, it's a great kasha of Rabbi Yochanan, but Rabbi Yochanan has backup. He didn't make this up. These are other Tanaim. Amalei Rabbi Yochanan, who the Rabbi Yonasan ben Yosef. This is a previous Tana, and Rabbi Yochanan holds like him. The Sanya, Rabbi Yonasan ben Yosef. V'chubas. This is referring to a person's clothing, a person that has tsaras on the clothing. So you have to wash the beged, and you have to wash it again. Matam aloy mashenis. The word shenis over there is extra. Makish l'chbayis shniyah l'chbayis rishayna. It's to tell us just that the first time you wash it, and the second time are the same. You had to have human intent. Now, what's the raya over here? The raya is that a beged, what is a beged? Is a beged kachim or chulin? Beged is chulin. This is chulin. Yet, you have to have intent when I put the beged in a mikvah. I dunk my suit in the mikvah. It's a funny thing. We're not used to it. But Beis Hashem, when the Beis Hamikdash comes, if our beged becomes tamei, if somebody eats a kosher bird and puts it in the back of his neck, he becomes mitame begodim habeis habliyah. His nevela, a tummy bird, nevela bird. His suit becomes tummy. So what do you do with the suit? That's tummy. You have to put it in the mikvah. But over here it says that it has to have das. You have to have das. Where? Akopanim, what do you see from here? It says mefurish. You need das. Like the first washing, the second washing also needs das. You need das with clothing. Chullin. It's a kash on Rav that says you don't need das. Imal alon bin das koyin, avkan bin das koyin. Maybe the first washing had to have the intent of the koyin. Maybe the second one also. No, the second one doesn't have to have a koyin. The Rebbe Yochanan say that you have to have intent by Chullin v'Omer Rebbe Yochanan. Halacha kistam Mishnah. This is a klal that Rebbe Yochanan says that when a Mishnah doesn't bring down a name, there's a reason why Rebbe took out the name. It's not that there's no name. He knew the name. Let's say he knew it's Rebbe Akiva. But he wanted you to know that this is the way we paskin. So he figured if I put Rebbe Akiva's name in there, you're going to think, oh, it's only Rebbe Akiva, but everybody argues on him. So I'm telling you, no. This is an anonymous Mishnah. The halacha is like this, and that's it. You should know this. So it says Rabbi Yochanan, halacha kistam Mishnah. The halacha is always like an anonymous Mishnah. Ustnan, it says in an anonymous Mishnah, our Mishnah is anonymous. If a knife fell and created a shechita, even though it was a perfect shechita, psula. And we asked in the Gemara about time of the nafla, it's because it fell by itself. But if he knocked it down on purpose, sheira, it's a good shechita. And there's no kavana. And who's this Tana that says you don't have to have kavana? Amarava, Rebbe Nassani. This is the Rebbe Nassan of Morocco video. He threw a knife and it bounced off the walls, shechted an animal, kosher. But it's an anonymous Mishnah. And Rebbe Yochanan holds like the anonymous Mishnah. And it says in anonymous Mishnah, you don't have to have kavana by shechita. What's the answer? You're right. Rebbe Yochanan is going to agree that you don't have to have kavana in shechita. But you have to have kavana in other stuff. Shalom Aleichem. B'shchita, I feel Rebbe Yochanan Yosef. That, why? It's a mefurish pasuk that by shchita you don't have to have almost mefurish. Midagal Rachmanim Esasik v'Kachim pasuk. There's a special pasuk that tells us that you have to have kavana in the Beis Hamikdash. That tells me that outside of the Beis Hamikdash you don't have to have kavana. But that's dafka by shchita. Great. Wow, it's already 8:13. Whew. Says the Gemara, so now Rabbanon make this distinction. Oh, so who's the Rabbanon? Rabbanon that argue Rebbe Nassan by the knife. They say that if you throw a knife and you didn't know that there's a cow and it shechted the cow, it's no good. Why? We have a big problem. We just said that only in the Beis Hamikdash, if you throw a knife and you don't have kavod, it's not good. But outside the Beis Hamikdash in Morocco, it is good. So says the Gemara, okay, I'll answer that. You're right, you don't have to have kavod to shecht, but at least you have to have kavod to cut, which Noam in the beginning of the shir didn't like. This is where Reb Nassan beat Rabbanon, because it makes no sense. Miksiv v'chatachta doesn't say anywhere in the Torah to cut. V'zavachta ksiv, it says shchita. So memanav shach. If you need to have kavanah, Chacham say make the distinction between cutting and shchita. If you need to have kavanah for cutting, then you have to have kavanah for shechting. If you don't have to have. Now, let's just finish this sugya. What does it mean that she was forced to be toivel? If it means that her friend took her and forcibly threw her into the mikvah, just like when you take a kli and you put it in a mikvah, you didn't ask the kli permission. So too, if you take another human being and dunk him in a mikvah, it's a good tefillah. I want to ask you a question. What if, Rabbi said, listen to this. What if, raise your hand if you think this is good. A person falls off a bridge, and another person, a friend, is watching this and is completely composed, and instead of screaming, oi, oi, she says, I want that to be l'shem tvila.
Get new friends.
Is that a good tefillah or not? Could another person that had nothing to do with her falling, just happened to be watching, could she put a das into this? Now, we just said if a person takes another person physically and dunks them in the mikvah, that is good enough das. I could force somebody to go to the mikvah. But somebody that watches on the side, is that a good tefillah? Yes or no? Does anybody in this room say that it's okay, it's a good tefillah?
Yeah.
The Arachroinim that say it's a good tefillah. Zachan la'adam. So then you don't need another person. Okay, whatever. Fine. Void. Betruma nami achla. Listen to this. When it comes to truma, you have a shaita. Did I tell you the story about my grandchildren? This nan hachareshes v'hashoita v'hasuma v'shenitra v'daita. You have a person that's completely fakalach, off the rail, off the rocker. Listen to this. When it comes to truma, you can have an apitrabas, a woman who makes sure that everything is kosher v'yosher, that this person is right to go to the mikvah. She grabs this shaita, dunks her in the mikvah, and she could eat truma. So, says the Gemara real quickly. How did it happen? Like we said the whole time. She fell off a bridge, so it was a complete oinus. And so what's the machlekes Rav and Rabbi Yochanan? Rav says that you don't have to have kavanah, Rabbi Yochanan says you do. So Rav says, just like by Chullin, you have to have kavanah, so too by Nida, you don't have to have kavanah. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, Nida is different than Shechita. The next pshat is, this is a little tricky, Rabbi said, don't run out yet. Listen to she went into the water to cool off her feet. And then what happened? She slipped and fell. But listen to the nakuda here, Noam. This is what you said before. You had a problem with this. There's a nafkamina, Rabbanan say there's a nafkamina between lachtoich and zvicha. There's cutting and the shechting. What's cutting? Cutting is not shechting. Cutting is cutting. A shoyte cuts. A bardas shechts. So cutting is a little bit of shechting. So over here we have something similar. There's a little bit of going to the mikvah. A little bit. It's not enough to fall off a bridge, because there was zero in falling off a bridge. Over here, there's a maisa of mikvah, but what? Putting in part of your feet in there. It's like cutting. It's part of shechita. It's a little bit of shechita. So a little bit of tvila is putting in the feet, and then you fell in for the rest. And on that, there's an afkamina. Hold on, and there's an afkamina to Rav.
She wanted to go swimming.
No. That's something else. That's a complete tvila.
She wanted to go swimming.
That's something else. So let me just finish so we can go to Shachris. It's an afkamina between Rav and Rabbi Yochanan, and again, there's an afkamina. Just like by shechita, it's enough to have kavana for cutting and not shechita. So by tvila also, it's enough to have kavana to go into the water a little bit and not a complete tvila. And Rabbi Yochanan says no. Tefillah needs complete das, and it's different than Shechita. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDY.com.